Joins us coming up. We're recapping the biggest races so far and so much more live from Fox News election headquarters. That's all still ahead.
It would be foolish to make any kind of broad assessment of what the vote's going to turn out to be. It doesn't look like there's going to be any shocking upsets or shocking vote tallies anywhere. It's a slug out right now, and Trump needs it all to go in his favor. So, Charles Gradhammer, dude, I make any mistakes? You're my guy, always trying to keep me on the straight and narrow. Did I say anything wrong?
So much error, so little time. So, look, at this point, I think the trends of the sort of the general analyses about the favorable ratings would tend towards Clinton. She actually beats Trump in the exit polls on honest and trustworthy, which is a pretty odd finding, and it's at odds with the latest in the polls. I think what's really interesting is, I think it was noted a little earlier, is that Trump got 27, 28% of the Hispanic vote, which is almost exactly what Romney got. I think the big difference is that there appears to have been an enormous increase in the registration of Hispanics. So they turned out, and it's the turnout in very high numbers, which I think is so damaging to Trump right now.
But you're not seeing any kind of sweep in Florida, for example, a heavy Hispanic state.
Yeah, but
and it's very, very possible.
But there just aren't
very
enough
possible
Hispanics.
Trump could win Florida.
But there just aren't enough Hispanics in Florida or elsewhere to turn a big advantage into a sweep of the state. We always knew it was going to be close, and right now it's hard to say how it'll end up, but she's slightly ahead. And for her,
yeah, but I don't think
for her this is not a must-win.
I don't think Trump is
state.
underperforming. Right. See, I don't think Trump is underperforming. I don't think he's overperforming. And as Britt Hume pointed out, if he doesn't overperform in some place like Michigan or Pennsylvania, she'll win. He's got to overperform in one of those key states. But he's not underperforming, even though some of the exit polling is dubious on his behalf. Would you cede me that?
Look, Bill, underperforming in this election is not reaching 270. So that's the only underperformance that matters. You want to compare it to the latest exit polls or the latest polling that was done on the eve of the election, that's fine. But the fact is that he has to carry the big three swing states, Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio, and to penetrate the blue wall. Right now, that looks like a distant prospect.
Which state do you think that Hillary Clinton will take out of those three?
I think it's likely she'll take Florida, and it's a toss-up whether she takes North Carolina. Ohio, I think he has the edge, but again, she doesn't have to have all these states.
Well, where do you think her strength is going to come in Florida? It's pretty much a dead heat now, and then the northern counties in the Central Time Zone are the ones that remain to be counted, and they're all, that's Trump territory. So how is she going to
I think it's a 2% lead now, and with over 80% of the vote in, that is not a dead heat. It's a substantial advantage.
Okay, I don't have that latest information. You know.
Yeah, well, it helps to have
it. Clinton is up by 2 in Florida right now as we speak?
I think it was 49 to 47, something like that. We can verify that.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then the better odds are that she'll win. But remember, that is Trump territory up in the north in the Central Time Zone. Okay. Well, in the overall overarch of the vote, has anything surprised you?
What surprises me is the two main issues that propelled Trump's campaign, that won him the nomination, and that people were looking to say there's sort of an ideological revolution going on in the country, and that is immigration and trade. What is very striking about the exit polling is that on immigration, the country is roughly 3-to-1 for legalization, which you wouldn't have known by looking simply at the primaries. But even more interesting is the one where people think there was more of a national consensus to overturn the general consensus over the last 50 years on trade, and that is hostility to trade. The exit polling shows only a 3-point spread between those people who think that trade is costing us jobs and those who are giving us jobs. And that, I think, sort of undermines the idea that the country as a whole has turned against it. If you look at it, it's basically 2-to-1 against trade on the Republican side, roughly 2-to-1 in favor on the Democratic side, which means we are not necessarily headed into a Brexit-type, economic isolationist type a consensus in the country.
No, because it's not that
that's
stark.
very different from what we had thought. Trump wrote it in the primaries because he discerned it as the issue in his constituency, but it does not extend far beyond it. And those, I think, are the two most striking findings in the election.
So you're going to make a prediction that Clinton's the next president?
If you force me, I'll take it.
All right, Charles Krauthammer. Now we throw it back to our election guys, and we appreciate you having us in. Thank you.
All right, Bill, thank you. I didn't get the prediction. What did you decide?
Looks like she's winning.
All right, we're going to call now the Fox News Decision Desk. Indiana Senate for Representative Todd Young. This is a big win against Senator Evan Bayh, former senator from Indiana, a big name there in Indiana. And then when this race started, Evan Bayh was up double digits. Todd Young fought his way back. He's 44 years old, currently a congressman. He's a Marine. And he had a lot of support from the Republican Party. This is a major hold. This is the retiring Dan Coats seat for the Republicans, and one in which really does paint a better picture now with Rubio holding in Florida and Young winning in Indiana, that perhaps if Republicans shoot the gap, they can hold on to control of the United States Senate. A lot of races still yet to call, including New Hampshire, Missouri, Wisconsin, and others. Megan, let's set it up to you.
Brett, so we're hearing now that Marco Rubio will make some remarks at around 8:40 or so, 8:45 this evening. So we'll stay tuned to hear what he has to say as he manages to secure a victory. And the conventional wisdom is that he's probably looking forward again to 4 years from now to set himself up. So because while he was defeated in the primary season, even his greatest detractors thought he might have more hope on the national scale, presidential race, the next time around. So he's managed to eke out a victory tonight. Now there's a lot of speculation about if the rest of these Senate races come down as they were predicted to come down, given what we've seen tonight with Indiana and Florida, that the Republicans possibly could hold the Democratic wins to the place where they have a 50-50 Senate. Now, if Hillary wins the presidency, then the Democrats have control of that chamber, and they'll have sort of divided government in the Senate where, you know, the Democrats, if history's any guide, would control the committees, and they'll have to work together. They'll have to work across the aisle. But if the Democrats do retain control or gain control of that Senate and she becomes the next president, she's going to get her Supreme Court nominations confirmed and other nominations confirmed. So we'll wait to see. It's 8:29 and 20 seconds here in the East Coast, and we are waiting now for another race call. We've got several states that are too close to call, as you can see from the bottom of your screen: Pennsylvania, Florida, New Hampshire, North Carolina. All of those, it's not a mystery. We're not completely shocked that those are too close to call. In particular, Florida. And by the way, we're hearing it's very tight in Florida right now, very tight in Florida, and that's a state where you have to have a mandatory recount if it's too close. So we may not know the answer in Florida before the end of this evening, and we'll find out whether that even matters as these states continue to come in. So now we're 4 seconds away from our next race call, and we are prepared to make that one for you now. It's 8:30 p.m. here in New York City. The polls have now closed in the state of Arkansas, and it is too early for the Fox News Decision Desk to project whether Donald Trump will win Arkansas, where Hillary Clinton served as First Lady for 12 years. Of course, the Clintons have a long history in that state. Also, Fox News can now project that Donald Trump will win Alabama's 9 electoral votes, according to our Fox News exit polls and partial vote returns. Again, I want to take you back to Florida because this is an important state right now. We were just looking at the latest, the Bureau of Elections down there posts the results as they're seeing it, and it is razor thin. This is just according to a few minutes ago, but it changes by the second, showing Trump slightly ahead in Florida with 3,990,000 votes, 300, so that's, call it 3.99, and Hillary just behind him by about 4,000, 3,986,000. So you're talking about a 4,000 vote difference there as of a few moments ago, but that, I mean, anything can happen there. They are counting as we speak. So let's figure out what all this means and whether they can foretell anything from this. Not me. I don't know. These guys know, though. Yeah, they're the experts. Carl, you see anything you object to so far?
Well, things change really fast. State Board of Elections now says the tech count in Florida is 4,266,000 for Trump to 4,172,000 for Hillary Clinton. The panhandle of Florida, Okaloosa, Escambia, Bay, Walton, these very heavily Republican precincts on the western side of the panhandle are starting to come in, and he's now opened up a...
That's good for Trump. That's supposed to be Trump territory.
Yeah, he's now opened up a 1.1% lead. And this will change again within the next 2 or 3 minutes because there's the central time zone is now coming in, and those counties are overwhelmingly Republican.
So if you're advising Trump tonight, how do you like these numbers? How do you like the way it stands at this point, given what counties they've counted?
Well, I'd be interested in what Starwald says, so I'll speak first, and he can correct me.
No one's ever said that. No, just kidding.
Tough crowd.
I say it every night.
Man. So I'm looking at the Southeast, and I would have thought that he would run slightly ahead of what Mitt Romney did because he's the homeboy. He's got Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, right.
He's not. And Broward and Palm Beach, he's not running ahead of where Romney is. And that's not a good sign for him. Now, he's also trailing in Hillsborough, which Hillsborough is a bellwether county. It is voted for the winner 19 out of the last 20 elections. Wow. It's voted for the national winner, and right now it's for Hillary Clinton. Again,
what part of the state is that?
That's in the western edge of the I-4 corridor in the central part of Tampa. And I'd say this. I'd say that we got to take this all with a grain of salt because so many votes were cast early. And those get counted first and get reported first.
So those are in these numbers we're looking at. Those are in these numbers we're looking at.
And then as the evening goes on, the question is, how much better does somebody do on Election Day than they did in the early vote?
Chris?
Well, look, the issue here, as we always know, is the I-4 corridor, which is from Orange County. Well, it goes all the way to the coast, both coasts, but it's from Orange County, which is Orlando, and then Tampa and St. Petersburg on the other side. Republicans have been doing worse in the Tampa-St. Pete area because it's gotten younger and it's gotten more diverse. Now, the problem is up in Orlando, that was good country for Obama. I was expecting to see that Clinton would not do as well in Metro Orlando as Obama did. I expected her to underperform, and so far that's not the case. So far she's holding her own with these voters.
Yeah, I expected her actually to do worse because this is an area where there's been significantly, for Trump to do worse, I'm sorry, and her to do better. This has been an area of a large amount of the middle class of Puerto Rico has fled to Central Florida and is now living in Orange County, waiting for the economy back home to get better, and they've registered to vote. And Democrats say in Orange and the surrounding counties, Orlando and the surrounding area, this is where the Puerto Ricans are registering as, and Central Americans registering as independents, not Democrats.
Now, stand by. I want to get to Dana, but first I want to go over to Bill Hemmer at the Billboard so we can drill down a little bit deeper into what we're seeing in these Florida counties.
I think it's fascinating what we're seeing these developments here and just some of what Carl was talking about there. And you look at the total vote number. This is the panhandle that you guys were just discussing here. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's almost like, you know, you've got a weight up here and a counterweight down here. And I was just ticking through this I-4 corridor. Let me go back in here for a moment here. This is, you know, Tampa to the west. It's Orlando in the middle. It's Daytona Beach up to the north. And let's clear that off here. This is Hillsborough County, okay? So she's got about a 6, look at the percentage on this. At 6%. You know, 4 years ago, Obama was at 53%, okay? So you examine that and you store that data point away. Then you come up the I-4 corridor. This is Orlando, Orange County. At the moment, she's at 60% to his 35%, which is a pretty decent number, outperforming a little bit percentage-wise from Obama 4 years ago. This is Seminole County, largely Republican. Mitt Romney had 76% of the vote in that county alone 4 years ago. So how's Trump doing on the margins right now? He's a little bit below that, about 73%. The Trump team had talked a lot about Daytona Beach for some time leading up. This is one of the 2 counties that Romney flipped 4 years ago. And so in Volusia County, Daytona Beach, Trump is right about 55% comparison to 4 years ago. So he's well outperforming the margin there. Up here in Flagler, another county that Romney flipped 4 years ago, it was 53.7. And at the moment, it's 59%. So now you start to look at the raw numbers, Carl, and you look at perhaps 35,000 votes in this county, perhaps 20,000 in another, and it's, as they say, it's real money after a while, and that's what you're starting to see just a little bit. This is Palm Beach down here. Trump has Mar-a-Lago. She's just under 58%, and Obama last year was right about that number, 58.6% compared to Romney. So it's, you can fish and feel and find a lot of what adds up to just a super tight race between Clinton and Trump, 4.2 to 4.1. 4 years ago, the raw numbers were, this is 75,000 votes 4 years ago in a state where you had 8.5 million cast. I think, Carl, we were talking over the weekend that you typically get, what, about a 20 to 25% increase? Well, and new votes over a 4-year period? Well, does that apply to this?
Well, that's what happened between 2000 and 2004 was a 25% increase. This was expected to be a year in which there's not going to be a dramatic increase, and we are having a significant increase in a lot of states. I would say something. Bill has put his finger on something. I used to have a place, excuse me, in the Panhandle.
Mm-hmm. I can cover for you for a moment.
I used to have a place in the Panhandle. It's got more in tune with southern Alabama than it does with southern Florida. And
is that Escambia? What was that?
Well, I was in Walton, man. Here. And they used to call it the Redneck Riviera. But affectionately, right. You also look, though, at the eastern part of the I-4 corridor, Volusia and Flagler. And that's Daytona Beach. They have NASCAR. That is more blue collar. That's more working class. That's more sort of middle America than the increasingly diverse Tampa, St. Pete. And so they share something in common, those 2 parts of Florida, and that may be a reason why Trump is doing a little bit better than Romney was.
So wait, I want to get to Dana, but I have to ask you, Chris, as somebody who can actually has been part of the team actually making these calls and trying to figure out what counties have yet to come in. Yeah. What do the numbers we have so far tell us from the counties that we've already gotten? Can you tell anything? I mean, with Trump slightly ahead, is it just the Panhandle now we're waiting for, which is heavily Republican, or do you believe there's a trove of Democratic votes still out there to come in?
Yeah, and I tell you what I'd do. I'd get that 2000 video ready. I'd get those hanging Chad videos.
Oh, come on.
I'd get those queued up. Well, it couldn't be any daggone closer, could it? I mean, this is about as tight as it gets. Yes, there's going to be more vote count that comes in from the Panhandle. Yes, it's going to be overwhelmingly Republican. But if you look at how can we see Jacksonville?
Sure can. It's Duval County up here in the Northeast. For this year, you're at 49 to 47.
And show Mr. and Mrs. America what it was last time.
All right, 2012.
So I thought Trump would be doing better there. I thought that it would be better for him there. Where are these blue-collar white voters that need to storm to the polling places for him? He needs them to show up. And who is going to show up, and apparently who is showing up, are a lot of first-time Hispanic voters. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be tight, 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 tight.
Let's go back to Volusia or one of the Panhandle counties. This is where the supporters are showing up who didn't show up.
Santa Rosa, where Huckabee's hanging out tonight.
I saw him in the green room.
I was going to say, I think he's downstairs.
He looks tan, though.
He has a very large house on the beach. Let's go down there. I've seen
Can you be more specific where?
I tell you, when I think back about elections past, and I think about 2000 to 2004, what we were doing when you were running Bush's campaign in 2004, Carl, is that we were watching the I-4 corridor because we wanted to see what was happening and the difference in the percentage of the vote between Bush and Kerry over that 4-year period. Did it go up or did it go down? Did it go higher or did it go lower? And we come back to 2004, and it's how we won the state. And I remember the night you were on the air saying that we've won Florida. And the Democrats were on the air saying, no, we've won Florida. And we look at the numbers, and we run up from Hillsborough County here in Tampa, where he was a 6-7 point winner in Tampa. And we followed that line up into Polk County, then eventually Orlando, where, look at the margin then. It was about a point. And that's when I was working at another shop then, but we were able to make the call and say, you know, you're wrong. Bush has won Florida, and now we move to Ohio to watch the outcome.
Well, if Trump manages to pull off a victory in Florida, I mean, it's absolutely critical to him. He cannot win without Florida, and that could open up everything for him. And if there's any position where the networks have to call Florida for Hillary Clinton, Trump knows he's done. If he retains Florida in the win column, it's a totally different ballgame because there's no other state that he must have that has even been called yet, right? That there's nothing in the questionable category that's gone toward her, unlike some of these Senate races. But if he loses in Florida, thanks to, in part, a large Hispanic turnout, Dana, it's fascinating because so many Latino voters who have been reacting negatively to Trump felt like this would be their day where they could come and seek their revenge, if you will. And maybe that hasn't happened on a national basis thus far. We don't have the evidence for that yet. But if it happens in the singular state of Florida, that's enough.
Florida, and also I think that you've seen a lot of focus from the Democrats in Nevada. So those are two states where you would have more Latino voters. I also want to see in Florida, if Trump's enthusiasm, which he had a ton of, can beat her organization. And it really comes down to that. Earlier on in the campaign, Donald Trump said that organization is overrated. He might be right. If you have that kind of enthusiasm that you can get people in like the Daytona Beach, as they were talking about, or in that Panhandle, you saw his rallies there. They were amazing.
20,000 people in some circumstances.
So he's got the enthusiasm. Those people probably did come out and vote. But then quietly, the Democrats were registering, I said earlier tonight, 600,000 new Latino voters since 2008 to the Republicans registering 50,000.
Wow. What a story this is going to be with all eyes on Florida right now, a must-have state for Donald Trump. And we continue to look at Ohio, to look at North Carolina, to look at Pennsylvania, all of which are too close to call at this hour, 8:42. Here in the East. Brett, it's getting exciting.
It's getting very exciting. Just back to Florida very quickly, a couple of quick points in the exit polls. If Cuban Americans, 53-41, Donald Trump. Other Hispanic, 70-25, Hillary Clinton. And I just want to point out as we go to break, when I was in Tallahassee for that recount, we were in the back of a Ryder truck covering those things, and Bill Hemmer was at another network with a big spread and a lot of buffet food. It was much better, but we got through. And as we come back, we'll have
but now you have the shandy.
The shandy is ours. And as we take a live look at Times Square tonight, the fair and balanced analysis from our Fox News election headquarters continues. This is getting interesting, folks. Welcome back to America's election headquarters. We are watching tight races on the presidential level. Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, too close to call. We do have a House call out of Florida, and this is interesting. It's Florida 26. We can call Representative Carlos Curbelo. The Republican will win against former Representative Joe Garcia, the Democrat. Now, why this is important is that this is a quintessential battleground district in a swing state in Florida. This has a heavy Latino presence. The fact that the Republican can pick up this race is significant. It includes Miami suburbs, all of the Florida Keys. You have a situation where Curbelo holds on to this seat, and it tells you a little bit, perhaps, about how the presidential race is that tight. It is the swingiest district of a swing state.
Swingiest. I like that.
Okay.
No, we're seeing a lot of signs now that this race is tightening and that this thing's far from over. And we want to talk about it now with our panel. Dana Lash is here, Mike Huckabee, former governor, Richard Fowler, and Mark Thiessen. Great to see you all. So let me start with Governor Huckabee, who's right over here. Yeah, not in Florida. He's here in the region.
Thank you.
I tell you, I thought I was invisible there for a while.
And what do you make of the razor-thin margin now? But Trump, according to the latest number I just saw, was up 102,000 in Florida.
Well, look, we're all hanging by Chad, and I think, you know, it may be that way all night long. But I do think the Panhandle vote is going to be over 80% for Donald Trump. It's going to be overwhelming. But one of the things that I take note of is that the people who ran with Trump are doing well and winning. The people who ran from Trump, the Republicans, they're getting hurt tonight. And I think that says a whole lot about where this election is going to go.
Dana, what do you think?
Well, I hope it's not too close to call. I don't want to see another 2000 take place, but I do think it's interesting, the turnout as well. I heard a lot about enthusiasm. I think some of what plays into that enthusiasm is just no other better way to put it, hatred for Hillary Clinton. There are a lot of people who really dislike her, and that's a great motivator for a lot of people who normally...
They're cheering you outside. They agree with your point.
Well, I mean, when we talk about enthusiasm, and I hate saying it, but is hate, I mean, it sounds so bad, but hatred kind of a candidate's policies, let me put it like that, of a candidate's policies, that really is a good motivator to get people out to change that and to put a stop to it.
Mark Thiessen, we've got Florida. Trump is up right now, according to these numbers. Ohio, still too close to call, but Trump's looking pretty good in Ohio, or has been coming into today at least. We have not been able to make a call in Virginia. No call in Virginia, which she was supposed to be running away with up until, basically the Comey announcement about, 11 days ago. No call in Pennsylvania. Same story there. She was supposed to run away with that. This race could be turning right now.
It could be very much so. And that, Virginia, remember, the same thing happened with Eddie Gillespie in the last election, where everybody thought that Virginia was going to go very easily to the Democrat, and he came within a hair of winning that state.
The point is the pre-election day polls in Virginia are a little
exactly. But there's an interesting pattern in two states that you mentioned that's emerging, in Ohio and Florida, which are must-win states for Donald Trump, is that in both of those states, the Republican Senate candidate has run way ahead of Donald Trump. I mean, Rob Portman has run the best campaign of anyone on any ballot in this election. He was predicted to go 18 points ahead of his rival. What did he do in Ohio to do that? He reached out to Democrats and labor unions and independents. He ran a positive, optimistic campaign. He reached out to women voters and tried to expand beyond the Republican base, and he had a fantastic ground game, 6 million voter contacts in the state that only had 5 million votes the previous year. And now it's too close to call for Donald Trump. He's won. Florida, Marco Rubio's won. We still don't know what's happening with Donald Trump. So there's something that these Senate candidates are doing in these same states that Donald Trump is not doing on a national level, and they are way ahead of him as a result, because they're campaigning on a hopeful, optimistic agenda. And it's good for conservatives to learn from this night that message still sells. That's what still sells in the Republican Party.
Okay, Mark, but Donald Trump's doing pretty well. He's hanging tough in all of these states. And Richard, tonight, aren't Democrats a little worried as they look at this map?
We always thought this was going to be a close election.
Not this close.
True. But what I will say is this. I think what you're going to see tonight is the difference between enthusiasm and a turnout machine. I talked to the campaign before I came over here, and the numbers that they gave me there is that in Florida, the early voting among Latinos, they have 1 million Latinos that have early voted, 2 times what it was in 2012. So while Donald Trump might have some enthusiasm on his side, what the Democrats have in Ohio, in Hamilton County, Ohio, which I think this is what that race is going to come down to, is they have a ground game. They are literally going to homes and saying, we are taking you to the polls, and the Trump campaign doesn't have that.
Right. But you're talking about the early vote in Florida. That's already in. It's in this batch. So we have this vote already in. So now you're looking at a Florida that is changing by the minute.
4 counties, Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Palm Beach County, and Hillsborough County. Hillary Clinton's up in all 4 of those. And there's still more votes to come in. I'm from Broward County. You can win the state right there. In 1992, Bill Clinton ran up the numbers in Broward County, and Hillary can do it again tonight.
But, Richard, I think one of the things you've got to realize is that, yes, you've got a great ground game. You've given people a sandwich, a shot of whiskey, and a ride to the polls. But I'm telling you, Donald Trump's people are going to the polls and voting for him, and they didn't have to do anything other than being told, it's election day, let's get out there and go for it.
That's fair, but I think what you also...
They're swimming at flood tide to go vote.
What you also see is that this race is a demographic shift in this country, right? Donald Trump is depending upon a group of voters that are sort of the Hispanic. There's a larger Hispanic population, a larger African-American population. People doubted the African-American community would come out. And yes, we're not seeing 2008 and 2012 numbers, but those elections, I would argue, are an anomaly because we had a black person at the top of the ticket. In this race, Hillary Clinton is performing better amongst African-Americans than John Kerry is, which is the same with liked race, which is why I think she'll win Florida pretty handedly after all the votes come out.
Dana, let me just say one thing. The RNC would push back hard with what Richard is saying. They would say that the RNC had a pretty organized ground game, even though the Trump campaign didn't. The RNC made up for what was lacking in the Trump campaign's on-the-ground effort.
No, I think that's a good point. And the Trump campaign did lack a ground game in a number of states. I mean, that's pretty indisputable. But the point is that, as you just mentioned, the RNC was able to make up for that. But for all the talk of the amazing ground game that we've heard from Hillary Clinton, and I have to say, I grew up hearing the Clintons have a fantastic ground game. Would we not see greater disparity in some of these early results coming in from states like Florida, which that went blue last couple of times? I mean, Florida, this was something that Hillary Clinton, I think,
about Michigan?
Confident, exactly. And yet, look at the results coming in.
Well, let me make one
look at the new voter registrants coming in as well.
Let me make one point on that. So what the Clinton campaign is depending upon is high population counties, which we know historically take a longer time to come in because there's more votes to be counted. So Broward County is going to take longer to come in than the Panhandle just based on population. So you have to wait for these votes to come in. I guarantee you at 11 o'clock, this map's going to look a lot different.
So you think we're going to get right down to the wire, and then boom, all these are going to go blue? Is that what we're going to do?
Well, that's what we saw in 2012.
I'll give you credit if that happens. If that happens,
you're going to see big.
All right, guys, stand by. Joining us now with more, Bill Burton, former Deputy White House Press Secretary for President Obama. Bill, great to see you. So let's just start with Virginia right now.
Day.
Yeah, and to you. Let's just start with Virginia, where right now they're saying that Trump is actually running up the score in the rural southwest of that state, and he's performing well in the Commonwealth of Virginia tonight. Now she's still waiting for that vote on Northern Virginia, which tends to be more Democratic. But you tell me whether that's a surprise to Democrats in Hillary Clinton's campaign.
No, not at all. I think that if you look at the geography and the demography of Virginia, of course those votes are going to be for Trump, but the massive migration of people has been to Northern Virginia, Arlington, Fairfax County, those counties in there. That's where the largest share of the vote is. That's where Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine are running strong, and that's fundamentally why she's going to win the state.
What about Florida?
I think that there's a lot more drama to the state, but there's still kind of votes. Florida, I mean, Broward County is barely counted yet. The numbers right now, I think, are predominantly from areas that are strong for Republicans. Not totally, but it's missing a lot of key counties that Democrats do well in. So in Florida, once again, Trump needs to win Florida in order for us to even keep paying attention to this race tonight. And it's not obvious that he's going to.
Well, he's up right now by 100,000 there, according to the latest poll. But you've got a situation where Trump's up 100...
Without votes being counted in Democratic strongholds, sure.
Well, some haven't been counted, but some have. And it seems, according to our election analysts, that state is very much in flux. And they can't say that, oh, yeah, all the outstanding vote is from Democratic counties, so, you know, it's done, or he's going to go down. They're not saying that at all. They're saying this is a dog race, and that we might be looking at another 2,000, another 2,000, where we had the hanging chads, and the U.S. Supreme Court had to decide what a nightmare that would be. We only have 8 justices. We need 9. But go ahead, Bill.
Well, unfortunately for Donald Trump, he would need to win a lot more than Florida or be tied in Florida for it to even matter for which way Florida goes.
But he hasn't been ruled out in any of his key states yet, Bill. He hasn't been ruled out in any not in Florida, not in North Carolina, not in Ohio, not in Pennsylvania, not in Michigan, not in Virginia.
Not yet, but it's early and they're still counting votes, and the Democratic strongholds have not been counted yet. I'm feeling very confident about how things look in the whole country. In Florida, yeah, it looks like a tie right now. And Donald Trump has more votes on the board. But even if Hillary Clinton loses there, she's in great shape over the course of the rest of the night.
Hey, real quick, Bill, for Senate race, how do you think it looks right now? And was it poor recruiting with Patrick Murphy and Evan Bayh if they couldn't pull off those wins?
Well, you know what? Patrick Murphy and Evan Bayh ran very good campaigns. Evan Bayh was against a pretty strong tailwind of Mike Pence being at the top of the ticket in Indiana. And in Florida, for Patrick Murphy to have to run against the popular incumbent Senator Marco Rubio, who ran far ahead of where Donald Trump is in the state, it was very difficult. I don't think it was a matter of bad recruiting. I think that Republicans did the best that they could in states that are used to electing Republican senators, and that's what you saw happen tonight. But Pence at the top of the ticket in Indiana was a very hard thing to overcome there.
Bill, we appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
I don't know what he said. That was exciting. I want to find out. More than 150 electoral votes at stake at the top of the hour in just moments from now.
Polls close in 14 more states. Just 3 minutes, 20 seconds from now. Results as they come in. And guess what? It's pretty tight. Hi out there. This is a tight race outside Fox News election headquarters.
156 electoral votes. Among the critical states, Arizona, Colorado, and Michigan. All three have been contested by both candidates. The Republicans typically win Arizona, but it's been somewhat in play this season, and both candidates are going for Colorado and Michigan, which was a late introduction into the dogfight category. And it is 9 o'clock here in New York, and polls have just closed in 14 more states, representing another 156 electoral votes. Fox News can now project that Hillary Clinton will win her adopted home state of New York based on Fox exit polls. Fox can also project that Donald Trump will win the states of Kansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, and Wyoming.
In Nebraska, one of just 2 states, along with Maine, that does not use a winner-take-all system of awarding delegates, Fox News can project that Donald Trump will win 4 electoral votes. It's too early to say who will win Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, which represents that state's 5th and final electoral vote. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton is ahead in New Mexico, although we don't yet know whether she will prevail there, which is really interesting because Donald Trump visited New Mexico in the final days of this campaign, a blue state.
Clearly, they saw something in their internal polling that the rest of us may not have seen in the public polling. It's also too early to project winners in perhaps the 2 most important battleground states of the hour, Arizona and Colorado. Trump has been counting on Arizona's 11 electoral votes to keep his presidential prospects alive. That was part of the Romney coalition. While Mrs. Clinton hopes that Colorado's 9 electoral votes will help cement her path to the White House.
And just now, a Colorado judge has rejected extending voting after a computer glitch there. So we're following that. Fox News can now project that Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer of New York will win a 4th term by easily beating Republican challenger Wendy Long, according to Fox exit polls. Schumer is widely viewed as the new leader of the Democratic caucus, and he would be the majority leader if the Democrats take over the majority. Obviously, Nevada Senator Harry Reid retiring.
And our decision desk can now project that the following 4 incumbent Republican senators will be reelected. Arizona's John McCain, who secures a 6th term by defeating Democrat Ann Kirkpatrick. Jerry Moran of Kansas, who wins a 2nd term by beating the Democrat there. John Hoeven of North Dakota, who gets a 2nd term by turning back a challenge from the Democrat Elliot Glassheim. And John Thune of South Dakota, who wins a 3rd term by beating Democrat Jay Williams tonight.
It is too early to project whether Democrat Russ Feingold of Wisconsin will take back his old Senate seat from Republican incumbent Ron Johnson, who took that seat from Feingold 6 years ago. A Feingold comeback would be an important pickup for the Democrats, as we talked about, trying to retake the Senate. They need 5 net gain, 4 plus the White House. In Louisiana, where the so-called jungle primary is making it difficult to project who will replace retiring Senator David Vitter, a Republican. There are numerous candidates from both parties on the ballot, and the winner must get more than 50% of the vote to preclude a runoff, which would be December 10th.
And this just in, ready to make another call now. The Fox News decision desk is projecting that Donald Trump has won the state of Arkansas in the presidential contest. This, of course, a state of which Bill Clinton was governor for a number of years. First Lady Hillary Clinton out of Arkansas for 12 years as well. And this state typically votes Republican and has done so again tonight with Donald Trump.
So as you look at our electoral votes, they'll be tallying up throughout the night on the bottom of your screen as well as throughout. We'll be ticking to 270. That's what you need to win the presidency of the United States.